and welcome to the 18th Congressional District Debate hosted by the Stanford Daily and KMVT 15. Here with us today are our candidates, Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, Mr. Bob Harlow, and Dr. Richard Fox. To give some context to the conversation, a bit of background on each of the candidates. During her tenure, Congresswoman Eshoo has had bills signed into law by Presidents Clinton, Bush, and Obama covering health care reform, consumer protection, and technology. Mr. Harlow is making his first run for Congress. He is currently pursuing a bachelor's degree in physics.
I've graduated with a bachelor's degree in physics.
He has achieved his bachelor's degree in physics at Stanford University. Dr. Fox is a physician, economist, and lawyer making his second run for Congress. The debate will be comprised of 6 questions. For each question, candidates will have 90 seconds to respond and 60 seconds for a follow-up response. We will then end with closing remarks from each speaker. Let's begin with the first question.
Mr. Harlow, with the success of the Sanders and Trump campaigns, the political polarization of this country has become increasingly apparent. Moreover, there has been significant doubt raised about both parties' presidential candidates with regards to their ability to win the general election and unite the country. With that in mind, how would you navigate these inter-party tensions should a president of the opposite party be elected into the White House?
Well, thank you, Terrence. I see a lot of good things happening in our political system. I believe that we're moving away from parties. We're not paying religious duties to parties anymore. We are looking for candidates who actually put the American people first. And that's who Bernie Sanders is, and that's why I'm voting for Bernie Sanders. He's the only candidate who's going to put the American people first. And if Hillary Clinton gets elected, well, then fine. I think this country will stay roughly the way it is. I do have some reservations. We'll get to those later. But I believe that people are waking up. People are tired of politicians that give favors to special interests, that put the American people last. And we're going to have politicians elected to Congress, elected to the president, who put the American people first. If not this year, then 2 years, 4 years from now, it's going to happen.
Thank you for the opportunity to appear here today. I'm running for Congress as a Republican, but I'm of the Libertarian branch of the Republican Party, and we believe in that small government will result in the best path forward for this country, but we also believe that people deserve privacy, and we respect diversity and inclusiveness. So. With that said, I have a lot of friends in all parties, and I think people of many political persuasions can be comfortable with the idea of a fiscally responsible government that is socially tolerant. I happen to have released a press release a few weeks ago saying that I would not be supporting Mr. Trump in this election either in June or in November because I don't think he's of the requisite character and temperament and principles that I follow. I will be voting for Mr. Kasich next week, and we'll see what the choices are in November, but I'm leaning toward my Libertarian friend, or the Libertarian ticket, Gary Johnson and William Weld.
First, thank you to the Stanford Daily for bringing us together and hosting this. Every 4 years, the American people make a decision. And I've had experience with the results of their decisions. When I was first elected to the Congress, it was President Clinton that was inaugurated, and served with him for 8 years. But my party, I'm a Democrat, went into the minority, and so things changed. And yet you have to work with people on both sides of the aisle, and I believe whomever is elected becomes our president. And then George W. Bush became president. I agreed and I disagreed. He signed some of my bills into law, and now with Barack Obama, which the same. He has signed bills of mine into law, and yet my bills are a result of bipartisanship because the Republicans control both the House and the Senate. So I've worked under all these different combinations, and I think it's important in terms of the experience. Now, I am supporting Secretary Clinton. I believe that she is one of the most experienced candidates to ever seek the presidency in the history of our country. Mr. Trump troubles me. He represents walls, he represents intolerance, he represents authoritarianism, and he seems to have a policy-free sorcery. And so I worry. I'm concerned about his candidacy and what it represents. So, but we have our work to do, both here in the 18th Congressional District, and the American people are going to weigh in with their voices, as they always do. There are, that's what our democracy is.
Thank
so
you,
I'm looking forward to it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like to respond to that. You know, the American people have experience with the results of these elections too. 4,497 service people died in Iraq, and all of them said goodbye to a loved one before they went. Said they loved them, said they would see them again, and then one day there was a dreaded phone call, and they said, "I'm sorry, your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife has died in combat." And that's what happens when we elect a president who is not qualified to be responsible enough to make good decisions for the American people. And President Clinton voted for, or Secretary Clinton voted for the Iraq War. She wants to go into Libya. She said so a year ago. Congresswoman Eshoo endorses Hillary Clinton. I think that's irresponsible. It's a betrayal of the people of the 18th District. We need to elect a president who has the judgment necessary to make good decisions for the American people.
Great, let's move on to the next question.
Dr. Fox, as you are aware, the average cost for a one-bedroom apartment in Palo Alto is over $2,000 a month, and housing costs across the Bay Area are similarly high. This poses many challenges for low-income communities in particular, and contributes to the congestion in the Bay Area, which is some of the highest in the nation. What would your response be in the federal government?
As I said earlier, I have a view that the federal government should not play as large of a role as it does. We spend too much money, we borrow too much money, and that is unhealthy for the economy. In the Bay Area, we happen at the moment to be doing fairly well, a lot better than a lot of other parts of the country, and we have had these pressures on housing prices. I don't believe that the federal government should try to involve itself in determining how much people should pay in Palo Alto for their rent versus Houston versus Detroit. Those are state and local issues. So I, with all due respect, think that those have to sort themselves out based on local economics. As far as federally subsidized housing and so forth, we are spending so much, we're borrowing so much. The debt in the last 8 years under this administration has doubled from what it was for the previous 200 years. That is unsustainable. We will have not only a housing crash, but a jobs crash. Everything will crash unless we get our economy and our spending and our borrowing under control.
Well, I hold a different view as you raise the issue of housing. I first served in local government for a decade on the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, and we had the federal government as a partner. They didn't pick up the tab, the entire tab, but we could count on a partnership from the state, a partnership from the federal government, and then also the dollars that we would put up. So I know that you can be successful in building low-income housing, senior housing, moderate income housing. I think that the federal government is no longer a reliable partner in this area. Why? Because the funds have been cut, and cut severely. And when they are, there are so many fewer choices for people. I think that we lose a lot when our communities cannot have people that really do the work and are the backbone of a community. The garbage collectors, the teachers, all of the people that we rely on in our community to provide a whole host of services through the work that they do. So I've consistently voted for funding for the very subject that you just raised, housing for low income and moderate income, and senior housing as well.
With respect, Congresswoman Eshoo, the American people don't want low-income housing. We need to house people who don't have housing, but that's not the solution. The solution is to make a housing market that works for everyone, where hardworking Americans can have decency and feel respected and be able to purchase the affordable and accessible housing they deserve. And the reason it doesn't get done is because no one talks about what's holding it back. We need a transportation system that will open up new areas for housing, where we can build a lot of new housing, and is going to make housing prices in the Bay Area come down. And that's what I'm proposing to do. I want to build a high-speed rail line from downtown San Jose to the Central Valley. It's going to be a 15-minute commute. It's going to be a 40-mile stretch, cost $600 million. It will save hundreds of millions of dollars in rent in our district alone. And with that, if no one else would like to respond, I would like to respond as well. So.
Is it
I
my
would
turn?
like to as well. I'd like to weigh in on this.
Congresswoman, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Fox.
Thank you. So this is a chart that shows what's happened to our national debt as a percentage of gross national product. And as you can see, it's doubled in the last 8 years. There's copies for my colleagues here. And this isn't sustainable. We won't have low-income housing. We won't have health care. We won't have food stamps. We won't have pensions. We won't have Medicare. We won't have Social Security. We won't have any of that if we don't get control of this. So we can't look at housing in isolation. We have to look at it as part of the overall fiscal picture. And we have to figure out what our priorities are. And we can't have unlimited open space along with unlimited affordable housing, along with unlimited population influx. All of these things are incompatible. So those have to be sorted out within the constraints of the money that we've got available.
I'd just like to say a word about transportation. And of course, it's a necessity. Here on the peninsula, the spine of our transportation system is Caltrain. And I'm so proud of the work that I've been able to do along with local governments up and down the peninsula, as well as the state of California, to not only help provide funding, but to make the following a reality, that we make this system a 21st century system, that it will be electrified, that it will carry more passengers, it will be cleaner, our environment wins, employers win, employees win. And so I'm very, very pleased and I'm proud because I think that that's a contribution that is not only for this generation, but for the generation to come.
Caltrain does not work. And if
Mr. Harlow, you can't respond again.
Well, I didn't respond. The first time was my response to the question. This will be my response to the candidates. Thank you. Caltrain does not work, and it doesn't work because it takes as long to get to San Francisco as in a car. If you're going from Palo Alto to San Francisco, it takes 40 minutes. We need high-speed rail. We need rail that gets people where they want to go, when they want to be there. And whether it's electric or diesel, I don't care. I want to get people where they need to go. Also, we need to replace SFO. It's polluting, particulates in the air, noise pollution. It's crazy that we've never done anything about it. I want to put a new airport south of San Jose. We're going to tear down SFO and build a lot of high-rise housing there. It's going to bring down housing costs. There's going to be a lot of new places for people to live. And we're going to solve this problem and actually solve it in a way that benefits the people of the 18th District in other ways as well. Thank you.
Thank you all. Next question.
Congresswoman Eshoo, across America, issues of police brutality and community-based policing have raised important conversations. One aspect of this conversation that has received particular attention is the provision of military surplus equipment to local police departments. What do you think about this program and policing issues more broadly?
Well, I don't think that military weaponry belongs in local police departments. And I had the opportunity to vote on an amendment that would end that program. I think that most people, including myself, in the country, were shocked when they saw on their TV screens that all of this military equipment was being used in a local community with people just protesting. It was stunning to me. I think it was stunning to many. And as I said, I don't believe that, I believe that police departments need the appropriate equipment, but they also need appropriate training. They need to have training that is ongoing. Many of the larger PDs invest in the training. A lot of the smaller ones don't. But there's no question in my mind that the militarization of police departments in our country is just plain wrong, and I voted accordingly.
Anya, should police departments have military weaponry and equipment? No, absolutely not. But the real problem here that people don't talk about is, we need to invest in the American people. If we want an end to crime, if we want an end to poverty and the desperate situation that a lot of people find themselves in, we need to start investing in education, making sure that every kid has a world-class education, regardless of where they grow up. Over in East Palo Alto, the graduation rate is tens of percent less than 100 at least, probably 60, 70%, and it's unacceptable. And those kids that are graduating are not prepared to get jobs in this economy and succeed and leave their kids better off than themselves. And we're going to do something about it. Our country can afford to educate its kids. Our country can afford to prepare its kids for the world. And anything less than that is unacceptable, and we're going to change that immediately and make sure that our kids are ready to succeed in the global economy and to leave their kids better off than themselves.
I agree with my colleagues that militarization of police is a pretty inappropriate response to these kinds of problems, this totalitarianism, authoritarianism. And of course, as a libertarian Republican, we don't look in that direction for solutions to these kinds of problems. I also agree that we need to have a path forward for the disadvantaged in our communities, and that starts with good education. And I agree with my friend Mr. Harlow about that. I unfortunately don't believe that we have the kind of money available for the kind of investments that he would like to see, because as I've just explained, we're broke and getting broker all the time. So we have to do a lot better with the schools and the communities that we have. And I think every youngster, every parent ought to have school choice. A lot of these kids are in schools which themselves are nothing much more than concentration camps where children are herded into them every day and locked down. So I'm for school choice. Whether the parent and the child decide they want to go to a private school, a charter school, public school, that should be their choice. And we should provide from public funds vouchers or scholarships or whatever you want to call them, so that they can get the kind of education they need to get out of these concentration camps.
Anyone else want to respond? Dr. Fox is a very bright guy, and he sees, as well as I do, that a lot of the problems in the United States, the root of it is kids are not getting the education they need to succeed in our economy. And I appreciate his perspective. I respect him a great deal. I personally feel that we need to find the money, because any society should be able to afford to educate its kids, to make great public schools with world-class opportunities for every student. And we're going to have a surge of funding in public education and make sure that every kid has every opportunity to succeed.
Does anyone else care to respond?
I would love to weigh in on this since the topic has gone to education. The federal government has very little involvement in K through 12 education. It is primarily a state and local responsibility. We have maybe about 5–6%, and in that arena, I think the Congress needs to make good on what it promised years ago for special education. But in higher education, I think that the expansion of Pell Grants is very important. I support zero interest on student loans. The federal government shouldn't be charging interest to students. And I also think that schools that keep students on a treadmill and don't graduate students. We have colleges in our country that are taking student loan money, but they have a 16–17% graduation rate. They should be closed down. There should be a standard by which all colleges and universities must meet. And I think that there are too many that are taking too much of those really precious dollars and misleading students in our country. So we have the capacity to do this. I think it is really the decision of the Congress to make good on higher education, lowering the burdens of student loans, and also setting standards where there are none.
I think I get a quick response. Thank you. I agree with my friends that this is a priority area, education, rather than increased policing. And I agree that we should try to find the money to prioritize this, even if it has to come out of other areas in the federal budget that probably are not such a priority. But again, I would like to see it happen through choice and let the market decide, let the parents decide, let the kids decide where they want to take those education dollars to get the most bang for the buck.
Thank you all. Next question.
Well, it's good, Congresswoman Eshoo, that you brought up higher education, because that's going to be our next question. Mr. Harlow, the average cost of tuition and fees in the University of California system have roughly doubled in the last 20 years. How would you propose that the federal government help make attendance more affordable, for example, by making student loans cheaper or by providing more assistance that doesn't need to be paid back?
You know, Terrence, in the last century, in the middle of the last century, we used to give kids the funds they need to get a great college education and graduate with little or no debt. If you went to the University of California in the 60s, 70% probably of your tuition would be paid, taken care of, you didn't have to worry about. And that's what set up this economy and this nation to be so successful, to have such a great economy. And we don't do that anymore. We don't invest in the American people. So we need to start providing the funds, whether that's in the state level, the federal level, some way to get kids the college education they need without going into debt. And that doesn't mean we won't hold kids accountable. There needs to be accountability. You know, there needs to be maintaining a good GPA. There needs to be being enrolled full-time. But we're going to make sure that kids who have all this potential can graduate from college without debt and reach their full potential in their careers.
I agree that this should be a priority, and having somebody graduate with unbearable and unsustainable debt is not a good way to try to start your career. What's really distressing is that this afflicts not just the college-age students, but even those who didn't go to college. We had a report that came out last week that for the first time in modern history, the majority of Americans between the ages of 18 and 34 are now living at home with their parents. This never happened before. And that seems to be because they can't afford independence. They can't get on the career ladder and start using the skills that they got in college. So it's not just getting through college that's a problem, it's getting launched after that in a way that you can use the skills that you've developed. So we have not only an education problem, but we have a problem with the jobs and with the job economy, and getting those good jobs to get started in life, get married, start a family. So it's not just the debt problem, but it's the jobs problem, and the economy is straining, I believe, under too much government spending, too much government borrowing. And until we get the economic house in order, it's going to be difficult, even if you get through college without the debt.
Congresswoman Issue.
There is no question that education is like the golden key. It opens the door to opportunities, and it always will. I don't think anyone disagrees on that. The issue is affordability, debt, access. Today, student loans outstrip credit card debt in our country. And it takes years for individuals to pay this off. I think that we should be thinking, now I mentioned earlier some of the things that, that I support and how I have voted, but I also think that there should be an opportunity for those that have far less, that they have an opportunity to serve their country. And so if we had a national corps where young people could give back to their country, say for 2 years, and that part of their student debt would be forgiven. I think we have to be far more innovative in our thinking on how to address this. Certainly expand Pell Grants and student loans, zero interest on them, the standards for colleges and universities. But I also think that a form of national service in exchange for some of that debt would be a wise investment.
Let me say, I don't think that's innovative. I don't want to see kids coming out of college and twiddling their thumbs behind a desk for 2 years. I do agree that we should have some national service, and I think that should be focused in developing these kids' understanding of the world and about what they want to do. So do it before college. Have them go, do internships, see how all these things are done, what they're interested in, and when they go to college, they'll have some direction, they'll be more mature, they'll be ready to capitalize on all the opportunities that college has for them. Also, Congresswoman Eshoo said that funding for primary and secondary education is primarily a state issue. It shouldn't be. If a school is failing, we need to step in. We need to make sure that school has all the funds it needs, and we're all in this together. This is one American nation, and we need to make sure our kids have an opportunity to succeed. Thank you.
May I say something about that? I don't think my constituents here in the 18th Congressional District, and I think most people would weigh in and say they do not want the idea of local control and state funds relative to K through 12. I just don't believe that the federal government belongs in K through 12 education, except in the areas where we have weighed in so that special ed children at one time were not allowed in the classroom, and then they became integrated. We should pay the 40% that we have committed to, and that would help local school districts immensely. And I have voted accordingly.
I would actually carry the local control a little farther and take it out of the hands of the local school bureaucrats and give it to the parents and their children if they're older, and actually return control to the family and not just hand it to career bureaucrats who are concerned about their own political futures and maintaining good relations with their school unions and that sort of thing. I would put the parents in charge of deciding where those education dollars should go. And I think there's, and I'm not so opposed to using federal dollars to help subsidize those scholarships for K through 12 as well as at the college level. I don't see an arbitrary distinction there. It's in the national interest to have schools that are turning out well-educated kids, and I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you all. Next question.
Dr. Fox, The tech sector in particular, as well as other industries, have made considerable use of H-1B visas in recent years to bring in specialized expertise from outside of the country. However, there have recently been allegations that some companies have abused the program by using the visas to replace American workers. What are your thoughts on this program, and what, if anything, do you propose to do about it?
Thank you for bringing that up. That's a bit of a nuanced question, because as you look around Silicon Valley, we have a lot of people who came here from other countries who've been very successful and have created a lot of opportunity and a lot of prosperity for our own people. But as you say, there have been questions about whether in some cases employers are using this to displace our American workers rather than to provide more opportunities for our American workers. I particularly am concerned about those who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, who may have not had the educational opportunities, who then have to try to compete against foreign workers who may have had better educational experiences. So basically, I think we should be bringing in people who will contribute jobs and opportunity for Americans, but if they're not going to come here to create jobs and opportunity for our people, then maybe they can do their work from wherever they are now. And with the internet the way it is, a lot of people can work from home, and if your home is somewhere on the other side of the ocean, you can still work for Google and Apple and Netflix from those areas without displacing our own local workers.
Whose turn?
Your turn.
My turn.
Congresswoman Eshoo.
To answer your question directly, H-1B visas are important, but the intent of the design of that visa category and how it has been used by some, I should say abused, calls for reforms. And I think here is an important place to make the point that I believe very, very strongly that we need comprehensive immigration reform in our country. And that has been stymied in the Congress, but I will keep voting the way I have because I think it needs to be comprehensive. There are visa categories such as H-1B that need to be reformed. There are other visa categories that should just be done away with because they're antiquated. They're not relevant anymore. And there are some new ones that need to be created. But our country always thrives when we have solid, good laws relative to immigrants. And when you see jobs not being filled by Americans, it also says to me that we need a realignment in terms of job training. When companies here have job openings, but we don't have people applying for them, it means that they don't have the right training and background. And our community colleges, who do a great job, I think some realignment is needed there.
Maisha, when politicians tell you that the reason Americans are not leaving their kids better off than themselves anymore, when they say it's immigration, they're lying. When they say it's outsourcing, they are lying. When they say it's automation, they are lying. The simple reason is we don't invest in the American people anymore. Ever since the Reagan administration, ever since we stopped getting the funds we needed from the higher tax brackets and giving them to make sure that the American people have opportunities, we've fallen behind. American workers are not ready to do these jobs. They're being outcompeted. By the way, this is my initial one, not my reply. They're being outcompeted and by foreign workers. And you know what? I believe that the economy is best served, the American people are best served when we have open immigration, when anyone can come here, share their ideas, share their capabilities. That's the story of every great country ever on earth. It's an open melting pot of ideas, of talent, and we should be thankful that people who are very bright want to come here because we have a great country, it's free, it doesn't have much corruption. What we need to do is give opportunities to the American people. We need to make sure they have the training they need to be able to do these jobs better than anyone else in the world and take advantage of this disruption in the economy where they can start a company and they can get a product manufactured cheap overseas and sell it to the world because they have the best ideas and the best technology, and there's going to be a lot of money pouring in and our currency is going to thrive under that system. So that's what we need to do.
Just a quick response. This immigration issue is a pretty sensitive one, as everybody knows. I don't agree with Mr. Trump's plan to just have a wholesale roundup of people and put them on buses. That's a terrible way to go. But we do need some kind of enforcement. As Congresswoman Eshoo said, we need solid immigration laws that are understandable and people can comply with them. That's probably going to rely on the E-Verify program, where we try to control where people can work. Employers have to make sure that they're hiring legal workers, and the sanctions fall on the employers and not on the immigrants. That's probably the way that we're going to have to enforce our immigration laws.
Does anyone else care to respond?
Well, I think that it's so important to appreciate how America was built. And this experiment, the United States of America, was built on immigration. And of course we need laws to guide that. And some of our, on the legal side, parts are broken, and on the illegal side. And what I favor a pathway to citizenship, because we're certainly not going to round people up. But this is the richness, this is the depth and the breadth of our nation, and the contributions that are made one generation after another. And Silicon Valley is a sterling example of what immigrants bring forward.
You know, I believe in freedom, I believe in the human spirit, and I believe that regardless of where you're born, you're a brother or sister on this earth, and that we should treat you as such. Now, that said, I serve the American people. I want to serve the American people, and I want to work with Americans to make sure that the American people have all the opportunities to be the best trained, to be the economically most successful people in this world. And if there's a job, that an American will be filling that job because they have the best skills, because we gave them the best opportunities. Other countries are beating us at that, and we need to start winning in that way again. But I do believe that everyone benefits from an open exchange of ideas, a place where people can come and go freely, and a free economy and a free society. Thank you.
Congresswoman Eshoo, the issue of granting political asylum has garnered increasing media attention in recent years. In the wake of the Syrian civil war and ongoing crises in Central America, to name a few, what, if any, asylum reforms would you propose in recognition of the growing number of displaced persons in the world?
Well, we did have a very important vote in the House relative to refugees. And refugee status is very different than other statuses. It is the most difficult one to prove in terms of being able to enter our country as a refugee. But I voted to protect refugees because they are the most vulnerable today, because they're the ones that are victims of ISIS. The other part of this is that there are some countries that have really stepped up to accept the refugees. I think America can do more. That's my opinion. I think that we have the capacity. I think that we have people across the country. I know that there are many in our congressional district that have stepped up and are willing to sponsor families. But refugee status is the toughest status to gain. It is a program that is vetted over and over again, and I think the way the House voted was cruel, in plain English, and I did not support what was presented to me, and I'm proud of that.
What our country has done for refugees is a shame. We said we'd take 100,000, we've taken 15. And you know, we need to take more. When did the United States stop being the moral voice around the world, the voice that protects the human spirit, that makes sure that people are safe in this world, and the voice of leadership? You know, we need to take our share of refugees, and we need to lead the world in making sure that everyone who's been displaced by violence in the Middle East has a place to go, has a place to start over with their families. And, you know, that's why I am disappointed that Anna Eshoo is supporting Hillary Clinton for president, because if we had not intervened in Syria, if we had not given aid to the rebels, none of this instability would have occurred. These people would not be displaced. Bashar al-Assad would still be in power, sure, but the amount of people that would be hurt would be very small. And because we created this instability in the Middle East, so many people got hurt. And Hillary Clinton wanted to do more. Hillary Clinton wanted to exacerbate that instability, to make the violence worse, and more people will be displaced, more people will be hurt. You know, we need to help people out when they are in need, but we also need to engage in a policy where there isn't the need in the first place. We need to lead the world in having a stable system. And yes, put pressures on nations to start respecting human rights, absolutely. But we need to make sure that people are protected, and we do what's in the best interest of those civilians. Thank you.
You know, when I was in college, we had the Vietnam War going on, and we had a great many refugees from Vietnam who came here. Many of them settled in San Jose, and have made very important contributions to our society. But Mr. Harlow raises a good point, because a lot of these refugee situations are the result of improvident decisions that we've made in terms of foreign policy to intervene in situations. It seems like every time we go to war, we displace a lot of people, and then we end up with a lot of refugees here. So this is a difficult problem, and I agree that we need to show more prudence in our foreign policy, and be realistic about the harms that are going to result from our foreign interventions. But I think also if there are no controls over this, we have billions of people in the world who could all claim to be refugees. There are vast numbers of people under totalitarian regimes around the world. We really cannot financially accommodate all of them. So this is a difficult problem, and we will also have to think about ways that refugees can find shelter in their own countries, rather than having to get on a boat, risk life and limb to get here.
Does anyone care to respond?
Yes. We need a foreign policy reset. You know, we are friends with nations who are committing horrendous human rights abuses. We're friends with Saudi Arabia. We should not be. We don't need them anymore. And even if we did, we can't jeopardize our moral standing in the world by engaging with a nation like that. In Israel, I heard a story on NPR the other day. A father, his little girl went to play. He said, "Don't go there, it's dangerous." She went out, she went to her friend's house, and she got shot in the head by an Israeli border guard. He's on the fence. He sees a little girl and he shoots her. And I think that's horrible. You know, Israel needs to withdraw its settlements in the Middle East. Israel needs to start respecting human rights. And until it does, I think we need to end all military aid to Israel. And not only that, we need to impose sanctions, because Israel is doing horrible things. But in general, we need a reset. We need to build holistic partnerships with other nations in friendship, in the spirit of humanity, and lead this world forward to a place where people are respected and have decency. Thank you.
I would just like to say, add one more point to the issue of immigrants, our immigration laws. We're living through the age of terrorism now, and I don't think that anyone should ever misinterpret, because I celebrate that we are a nation of immigrants, and we are, that we don't have the best vetting system for anyone that is attempting to come into our country. The times call for that. It's very important in terms of our national security. And as a member of Congress, my top responsibility is to our national security, the security of the American people. So I didn't want to leave the impression out there that that we not take all of those issues very seriously. But you have to know what the visa categories are, how they work, and the prudent policies that should be attached to them in every case.
And now let's transition into closing remarks. We can start with Mr. Harlow on the left.
My name is Bob Harlow, and I am running to represent the people of California's 18th Congressional District. You know, our government has failed us in the very basic way of not being able to build a good transportation system so that the people of this district can get to from point A to point B, so that they can get to their work in a reasonable time, that they're able to spend that time, that they will be stuck in traffic with their kids, that they will be able to have these financial resources that right now they're spending on housing because housing prices are ridiculously high, and invest that in their kids' college education. And if we build a good transit system, if we get our act together and just do the simple thing of building short segments of high-speed rail from city centers to places where we could put a lot of new housing, then housing prices will come down significantly. People will be able to get to work and have the time left over to be with their families. And that's the first thing that we need to do, and that's what I will do when I am in Congress.
Dr. Fox?
Thank you. We have many pressing needs, as my colleagues have pointed out, but I continue to be of the view that the most pressing of these is getting our financial house in order, because we all know that we can't keep doubling the national debt every 8 years. That's unsustainable. It's going to collapse everything we've talked about: housing, healthcare, transportation. We will end up like Greece, like Venezuela, like Argentina, like Detroit. We have to find a viable path forward, because we're going to go broke, and then we won't be able to do any of these things. So that would be my top priority. We have to get our financial house in order to carry forward any of these things.
Thank you. Congresswoman Eshoo?
Yes, thank you. Thank you once again to the Stanford Daily for hosting this forum. I know this is a week where you're taking exams, and for you to put this together, I think you've done a splendid job. And to my friends and colleagues that are here, I thank them as well. I think that we're blessed to live in one of the most creative and productive places in the world. And representing this district, as I have, carries, I think, very special responsibilities. For me, that has meant making our innovation agenda a national priority. It means leading the charge in the Congress for an open and free, accessible internet, investing in basic research, STEM education for everyone. But it's also looking out for those that are vulnerable, always protecting our seniors, our environment, and improving health care for all of my constituents, and certainly making government work and work well for the Valley's families have been my top priorities. So I would be honored to have the support of the people that are listening in on Election Day, and know that I consider it the highest privilege of my life to represent you. It's a sacred trust that you have given to me, and I know that in the work product that I have produced over the years and continue to, that is in return for that trust that you have placed in me. So thank you again, Stanford Daily. I think you did a great job.
And with that, our debate has come to a close. Thank you very much to our candidates for their time and very thoughtful responses. Thank you to our host, KMTV 15. And to our viewers, we hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to vote on June 7th. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.